Hey, my name is Joe, or JP, not that it really matters, but essentially I've had a lot of questions about one-armed gaming, and I've seen a lot of people posting about it, especially on Reddit and the disabled forums and, disabled gamers, things like that. For me, I had a brachial plexus injury due to a motorcycle accident 3 years ago, which has paralyzed my upper left side, so I only have access to my feet and one hand and my voice, which is an important one to add as well. So I just wanted to give you a very quick run through of how I've adapted my setups so that you can play any game on Earth that you want to. I thought I'd show you with this kind of thing on my phone first before swapping over to an OBS one, which is a lot clearer for on the computer. So all you need really is down here. I've got a couple of Elgato foot pedals, one for each foot. And essentially I use these for running left and right. So left foot down runs left, right foot down runs right. Then these extra buttons on the side you can use for anything. You can use it for example, in some games it might holster a weapon, or if you have to go through a lot of menus, you set it to escape, or if you have to set it to, say, a map or whatever, just things like that. Extra things, opening a journal, inventory, whatever, there's options for that. Sorry, I'm cutting off my face with the desk. I'm not used to filming with two cameras on at once. And the next weapon of mass destruction is this beautiful mouse here, which are extremely hard to get hold of. However, you can get them on AliExpress. I've bought a couple of them and I've had issues with one of them, but generally speaking, it's been fine. So they're about 90 quid, 90 pounds, maybe $110 or €100, something like that. Let me see if I can move this into the light so you can see layouts on it. Maybe this way will be better instead then. There we go. Okay, cool. So on the side, you have 6 buttons for your thumb, and I use those for running forwards, backwards, sprinting, crouching, voice talk, or extra things such as selecting stuff or pinging people if it's a certain game, whatever. Basically, the last 2 buttons at the back are just extra buttons for whatever makes sense for the game you're playing. Again, I'll show you all this on the computer so it makes much more sense. Just giving you a kind of 3D run through on the phone. And on here, I use these 2 buttons on the left mouse button for jumping and healing, generally speaking. And you can also flick the mouse wheel left and right, which depending on the game, depends on what that does. I'll also go through that. But a quick example would be something like if I was playing a shooting game like Call of Duty, Cyberpunk, Red Dead Redemption, anything like that, flicking the mouse wheel to the right would reload, and flicking it to the left would be interact. If it was a game that required a lot of dodging, so say Batman or Spiderman, something like that, then flicking the wheel to the right would be dodge, because you do that a lot. And I would actually take the heal button and swap that to interact instead. And then with games that are more simulated with regards to, say, SWAT or Ready or Not, things like that, where leaning is a part of the game, I use the mouse wheel to flick it right to kind of lean right like this, and then flick it left to lean left. So essentially it means you can play those 3 different styles of games quite successfully with this setup without much of a change. So that's basically reload based games, dodging based games, and leaning based games, which seems to cover the vast majority, if not all, of the games that I play pretty much. If you're playing things like World of Warcraft and stuff like that, then take what you need from this, because it will still help you. But the controls that I've got set up are more for kind of third-person shooters, first-person shooters, fighting games, things like that. So, cool. I'm going to swap over to OBS now, so I will fade this screen out and whack you onto a full-screen desktop one. Cool. Okay, guys, welcome over to the computer side of things. So, from here, I thought I'd show you what I'm using each thing for. On the left-hand side, this is G-Hub, which is what comes with the G604 mouse. It comes with any of the other Logitech products as well, but because we're using this mouse, that's what we're referring to. I thought I'd run you through the controls for a game like Cyberpunk. So what I've got here is jumping and using and healing. So these 2 buttons here, next to, if you'd like shooting here, then this front one would be jump, this rear one would be healing. Left and right are the same, so left is shoot, right is block or aim your weapon. Flicking the mouse wheel to the right would be reloading. So if you're kind of shooting like this, you actually just flick your finger to the side and it reloads. When you interact with things, just move your finger to the other side and flick it left to interact. You've got jumping and then healing yourself. Then on the side, I use the front two, so that means the closest to the front of the mouse. I hope you can see that because of the lighting. The front two buttons, the top one is run forwards and the bottom one is run backwards. Then logically, if you're running forwards in a game like this, you'd think, well, I need to be able to sprint. So the button, the middle one, the top middle button, which is just one button back, that is actually sprint. So you'd be holding forwards essentially with the front of, you know, your kind of the tip of your thumb. Then if you need to sprint, you simply just rock your thumb backwards. And because it's on the same row, just one button back, you can start sprinting. Then the buttons below, this is run backwards, the very, very bottom one. And the one behind that is crouch. Sometimes I also map crouch to my feet, so if you're sprinting and you want to crouch to do like a slide, it's easier to get away with that. And then the back two buttons, it's just whatever makes sense in the game you're playing. It's different for every game. Sometimes I use it for voice chat, sometimes I use it for other things. Then with the feet, left and right is running left and right, and then whatever the extra four buttons are for whatever. So you can see in here, if I show you on the screen, that you've got jumping, healing, flicking it to the left is interact, flicking it to the right is reloading. And if I change it to the other view, this is how I've kind of got these set up. So you got running forwards on the top right, the top front button, then the middle is your sprint. I've got this one set up to scanning because it's to do with Cyberpunk. This will be cyberware systems, and then crouching and running back. With regards to, I know I'm repeating some of this stuff, but I'm just trying to drill it in, like what's actually happening, because it can appear a bit confusing, but when you actually sit down and start using this setup, it feels insanely easy. Like, it makes a lot of sense. I've set these pedals up for left and right foot. So Cyberpunk, I don't know what G will be, probably holster gun or something. A is going to be like WSA and D, so A is going to be running left. C is probably crouch again. So I've got that for being able to slide while sprinting. I'll double check that in game. Then with the right foot, escape on the left button, D for running right, and M for opening a map. So if I now go into Cyberpunk, we've now got this aspect where I push my left foot down, I run left. Let me get off here. So I push my right foot down and I run right. I push my left foot down and I run left. Let me record another video at the same time as this, actually, because then I can probably overlay that and show you guys at the same time. So if I demonstrate down here, so if I push my left foot down, I run left. If I push my right foot down, I run right. And then if I want to, I don't know what G is for. Don't know what G is for in this game. So I've got crouch also on this inside button. So what you'd use that for is if I were to say sprint and then push that button, I could slide. If my character, there you go, if I was running fast enough. The right foot inner button is escape, which is great for if you're in menus. So if you go into, like, say, settings and you're buried in settings somewhere, I don't have to keep reaching over to the keyboard and pressing escape like this. I can literally be in a menu somewhere and then just use my foot and just get out of it as quickly as possible. With regards to looking around, that makes sense. Front button is run forwards, rock my thumb backwards to sprint, push that front button, this one, to jump. So even just that, I can run forwards, sprint, then I can jump, like, very, very easily to jump over things. Then you start bringing your feet into it and all of a sudden you're moving around just fine. Then move my thumb down to the front button, but the bottom row, and that's running backwards. So far that's your basic movement of just moving around doing stuff. Then the middle button on the bottom row, that's your crouch. Then reloading, let's say you shoot something, flick the mouse wheel to the right and that reloads. Let's say you need to pick something up, you flick the mouse wheel to the left. Job done. If you need to heal, push the button behind jump. And that's pretty much everything. Like, you can play the entire game like this, and I have done. So everything you need. That's how I'd approach playing a game like this. Then the next type of game, I'll probably pause this recording and restart it again with the next game open, so it's easier to show the differences. So give me a second there. Hey guys, so here we are in, say, something like Spiderman. here, flicking the scroll wheel to the side, which used to be reload, in a game like this would be dodging, and then your left click is punching the crap out of stuff, right click is aiming. Jump is still jump, so that button that's the frontmost one on your left finger. I don't know what all the buttons do because I'm playing 3 games one at a time, and obviously I set the controls up in advance so I can just go and play the game, and at the moment I don't actually know too much about the Spider-Man setup because I just haven't moved on to playing it properly yet, hence I'm still at the beginning of the game. But I've set up some buttons here, so for example, you know those 2 extra ones at the back I told you about where you got forwards, back, sprint and crouch, and then the closest 2 to you? That one in this instance I've got set to this ability to kind of, you know, zip across to stuff. So you're basically moving your index finger to jump and do the extra kind of, you know, springboard, double jump, or whatever you want to call it. And then that extra button at the kind of closest to me, but on the top row, to bounce between stuff. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, a little bit of gymnastics, but I mean, it's possible, right? And then you can dodge. And then I think flicking left, I've got to grabbing stuff. So if I drop down a level and say flick the mouse wheel left instead and hold it, then you can pick stuff up. So, you know, sprinting is still the same, all that stuff. So, you know, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Things like special abilities I will have probably put onto something like voice attack, because some games just have way too many controls, and in those instances I use voice attack to use my voice, recognizing words I'm saying in order to do extra things. So it's helpful in games where, I remember in Harry Potter, there was, in order to open the inventory, you have to hold tab and then move the mouse around to what you want. Same in Plague Tale as well. And I couldn't do that. So in voice attack, I set up the ability to say the word tab or inventory, and when it recognized that, it would push the button down for me. I'd then select what I wanted with the mouse, and if I could click to escape, then I'd just click. If you had to select and then release tab, I would then say the word tab again, and it would release tab. So I'll show you guys how to do that as well, just so you're not left in the lurch. But the next one I'll load up if I can is Ready or Not, to show you the third type of game, which is that leaning aspect. Other than that, yeah, so give me a second. Okay, so here we are in Ready or Not, which is more of a leaning style game where you need to lean around stuff. So the way I've set this up is that the flicking the scroll wheel will now actually lean me left and right. So if I were to approach something, let's say here, and you wanted to lean around a corner, you flick the mouse wheel to the right and it holds the lean for you. And then you need to take cover, just flick it right again, or flick it left, whichever works. And then now, because reload and interact will be swapped to something else, because clearly like you can't use them on the scroll wheel anymore because you're now using that to lean, I will have swapped them. By the way, forwards, back, crouch, sprint, those are still all exactly the same. So interact is the now what used to be the jump button in Spiderman and Cyberpunk. So if I click that button instead, that's now your interact. This would be a perfect use case for explaining voice attack. If I open up voice attack, yes. So what I would have done in voice attack is, if you open that up, it's already loaded Ready or Not. So in my Ready or Not profile, I've got in here a lot of settings. So for example, swap, which will be swapping between weapons, different commands for checking doors, things like that. Don't worry too much about that. That'll be a different video, I think, with regards to setting up voice attack for that. But the most obvious ones is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for changing weapons, and there'll be a check mag button as well. So reload should actually be on my buttons. So let me double check to see what's going on there. But the check mag one, you can see here, I've set this up so that it will press the R key and hold it for half a second, because in this game you need to hold R to check the mag. So now this one's running, that's fine. Let me work out why I've got no reload. What game is this? Ready or Not. So ready or not. So that button is going to be voice. Don't know what 3 is going to be for. Don't know what F13 is. I think that's probably a mistake, and that should be reloading, perhaps. So I'll swap that to reloading instead. So now, when we go back into the game, I can reload by pushing that button.
Shooter, on you. Engage the target on command.
And if I get voice attack to actually listen to me, check mag. Okay, so it recognized it. So here we go. Check mag. Obviously I don't need to do that now because I could just hold the reload button, but it's just an example of what you could use it for. So there we go, prime example. I can set this up for you. So if we do a new command, and if we say X, key press, press and release, we want to press and release, we'll click up here and we'll put in X. Okay, apply.
Well,
X.
we don't just spray and pray.
X.
Next up, transition to your sidearm.
2.
Engage the targets as they present. You're shooting well, but let's focus on some surgical shots. Slow your breathing, get a perfect sight picture.
So that's how you'd set up for a game like this. So 1.
Let's work on an
Check mag.
alternative shooting position for close quarters.
Yeah, anyway. I haven't played a lot of these games in a long time because I'm essentially playing through one game at a time, and I just use my brain to remember the controls for that particular game. Then when I'm done with that game, I set them up for the next one and I play that one. But when I first was working this out at the beginning of my accident, I was obviously going through everything to set as many games up and as variety-wise as possible so that I wouldn't run into problems in the future if I wanted to play games that came out. So I hope that does a decent enough job explaining how I end up playing basically every game going with just 2 Elgato foot pedals, voice attack, and this mouse. You could swap this mouse out for a Razer Naga, I think it is. I didn't prefer it over this mouse, but there are options if you don't want to buy from AliExpress for other ones. Whatever works for you. So hope that helps. Any questions, drop a comment and I'll let you know. Cheers, guys.